Wajia, good morning, everybody. So we're just going to have a warm-up song. Just to let you know, the first song will be a warm-up song, and then after that, we will open it up. Miigwech.
Yeah, I told them I'm gonna advertise for them, so.
Did that on the day one.
Told them we see them in the parking lot. I see one of your things in the parking lot.
Miigwech for the warm-up. Miigwech genijmach chikadik miigwech jiminawa wenogum kagzibak. Majigu munigziba ngekit. Anabu gizwe bakagajing majigu munashin gizga gaminwek and dasgizga. So again, thank you for the warm-up song. What we will do now is officially start day 3 of the special Fall Chiefs Assembly. And I'd like to again acknowledge the Thunder Mountain Drum for being with us over the past 3 days. So we would like now to open. I am going to invite Thunder Mountain also to introduce themselves. I believe Dave might be the head, the lead. And if they can introduce themselves, but also open with a song. So I'll turn it over to Dave.
Check. Bonjour. Nish nakaz nimki mayengen ogish kamanzi dotam laxol nadonji. My name is Dave Samard. I'm from the Thunder Mountain Singers, and we've been asked to render the songs and ceremonies here on behalf of our community. We received our name from the late Margaret Pierre from Fort William First Nation. And when we were young singers, when we were first starting out, we didn't have a name, we didn't have any elders to guide us. We were, you know, kind of wandering around, searching for ourselves. And what we found is that, you know, the drum brought us together. It kept us out of trouble as young people back in those days. Often, you know, when an Indigenous man or a young man would get out walking alone by himself, he'd often get, you know, picked on, or, you know, there are a lot of challenges to be a young Indigenous man here. And the drum is what saved us. The drum is what helped keep us together. We're fortunate to travel around and to have mentors like the likes of Dr. Richard Lyons and the Napish family, Brad Napish, the Skeed family from Kenora, many of the families in Treaty 3, and also the other communities such as White Sand and Ganogaming, and you know, that helped guide us. And we're very fortunate to have been able to travel around the country singing our songs. We're always encouraged to learn our language, to use our song, use our language in our songs, because when we first started singing, there were no words in the songs. They were all straight songs. And we went to Apollo one time and they told us, like, you guys are really great singers, but, you know, like, we can't tell where you're from. We can't tell who you are. So that really encouraged us to start making our own songs, and that's what we started doing here. And, you know, in discussion about making it our own, you know, discovering your own language, your own songs, that we also found that we were able to compose a lot of songs. And we actually composed a song here that we sang yesterday. It was a Chiefs song. And our lead singer is the one that composed that song. And we sang it for the very first time yesterday here. And we wanted to, you know, to showcase what we do here as singers and as language keepers, as knowledge keepers, that we are able to share this with everyone. So that's the song that we're going to sing here at this time. We're going to go to that Chiefs song to sing this. And what I'll do is I'll pass the mic around to introduce our singers here.
Bonjour, ni gani megazi nene ni dotem. I'm from Abmotung, Fort Hope, Ontario, and my name is Simon Slipperjack. And I've been singing with Thunder Mountain for about 2 years, I guess, but I've been knowing them for a while already. Because
bonjour. Wapske maingen Indish nagas. Wapdawag ni donje. I'm the lead singer of Thunder Mountain Singers. Been singing for almost 40 years now. Thanks to Bradley Napish of Eagle Lake, and to the Skeed brothers, Pat and Stan Skeed from Rat Portage, or Wajashk Onagam. And I'm just grateful to be here and be able to share our sound with you, the Ogamak. I'll get your me gochna.
Hanin Bojo and Mkis Nini Indigenous Cause Makwando Dem, Ashkigama Donjaba, Anishnaba Nini, Michi Sagig Nini and Dow. My spirit name is Little Thunder Man. I'm from where the lake curves in the south. I'm Bear Clan member, and I am a visiting singer here with Thunder Mountain. This is my second, we'll call it audition. We met at the Anishinaabe Nation gathering a few weeks back, so they've graciously invited me to sit with them. Aho, miigwech.
Well, my name is Christy Mistegizik, and I come from Yamatung First Nation, and I'm one of the young guys here. I'm still learning how to talk my language too. So my Indian name is Nagamo Pinish, Singing Bird. I got that when I was about 12 years old, and I've never stopped singing after that. So I think I always thank the drum every day I come to it.
Ani Bojog, Hiweden, Node Indigenous Cost, Makoro Dem. My name is Northwind. I'm from Wiki. I knew Thunder Mountain since I was about 12 years old when they came to Wiki. And I used to be a hoop dancer, and they used to come around our area, and we used to invite them and sing. So that's how long I knew these guys. It's an honor to sing with them. Miigwech.
Could I have Buddy Rice, please? Just kidding. My name's Owen Gustafson. Well, first I should say, Aneen Wachia. I'm the drum keeper for Thunder Mountain, and I always say I'm from Thunder Bay, because when I was 60s group, this is where they brought us. And this is how we met all our other singers, and a lot of them have passed on. And so I always say I'm from Thunder Bay now, like, although I'm from other First Nations, and I always acknowledge where I come from. This is Thunder Bay, so this is where I grew up. So, and I want to say thank you, Chiefs of Ontario, for inviting us and inviting the drum tag on. Miigwech.
Bonjour, my name is Mel. I've known these guys when they were young, before they even had hair on their face, or some of them. But you know what? But I used to work up in a mental health organization, and I used to always call them in. They used to come and we used to work with a lot of children. They came in and they worked with the children to teach them how to make drumsticks, and teach them songs and all that stuff. So I kind of helped them on their journey. So and I'm a cheap pickup. Not too much, yeah, pay me, and I'm having a good time because
Miigwech, Thunder Mountain. Again, acknowledge the drum for opening today's session, our final session for this three-day assembly, and thank you so much for being here throughout the past 3 days. And it's important, Vera was reminding me that we all have a story. We all have a story, and it's important to share and to know who we are. So it's really good to hear from the drum group and to hear their story. We all have an interconnectedness. We're all related, and that's why it's so important when we introduce ourselves to introduce ourselves, where we are from, who we are, and that's part of who we are as a people. So miigwech, Thunder Mountain. So it's now, what time is it? 9:18. We're going to officially call to order day 3. And just to go through the next agenda items for this morning, we do have 3 more updates, and then we have 1 resolution. And then we will be starting our closing protocols. So we should be wrapping up between 10 and 11 o'clock. That's the plan for this morning. So for the agenda, we do have the prosperity table update. We'll be inviting Grand Chief Joel Abram to come up. He is the chair of the Chiefs Committee on Economic Development. Following that, we'll have the Regional Information Governance Center project update. We'll have Chief Shelley Moore-Frappier. Chief Moore-Frappier is the chair of the Data Champion Advisory Committee. And then the final presentation, we neglected to do this yesterday, and I apologize to Chief Miracle. As part of the housing agenda item, we shuffled the agenda a little bit yesterday. There was actually a second housing agenda item, and we sort of breezed through yesterday afternoon, but we'll get to that. And I believe it's the CCOB, Chief Miracle? COHB. COHB, the Canada-Ontario Housing Benefit. So we'll turn it over to Chief Miracle for a brief update on that. So those are the 3 agenda items, and then the 1 resolution. So that's the plan for this morning. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to my colleague, Vera, to introduce the first agenda item. I think I'm putting Vera on the spot here, but she's a pro. She knows what she's doing.
So we'd like to invite and know that Grand Chief Abram is going to share all of his knowledge, as much as he needs to on this agenda item. Grand Chief.
Sagali Sagwegi, Dawaz lagi ni yung yats. Otayoni ni wigit nodo, kalit onya da aga ni wagahonjo da kalit. Wagatsunoni ji sagunk, onislade. So I just said hello everybody, and it's my Oneida name is Dawaz lagi. I guess the Anishinaabe equivalent would be a Dumhuk. From Wolf Clan. I heard a lot of others had Maingan as well. My brothers there, sisters. And from Oneida Nation of the Thames, currently Grand Chief of Association of Iroquois and Allied Indians. And I have way too many portfolios. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. Anyway, today I'm here to talk to you about Chiefs Committee on Economic Development, and maybe just some words on that before. I think that's one of the things that when I first got into, I guess, politics, I guess you could say, is one of the things that I thought should be a big priority for us all is for the prosperity of all First Nations. And if we can, wouldn't it be good if, we could all have enough money and to support our people and make sure they have employment, make sure that there's no more poverty, make sure that they have resources that they need. And most of all, we can tell the government where to stick their whatever nose. Anyway, so I think that's something that every First Nation hopefully is aiming for. And this is a relatively new portfolio. And I was interested in this for a long time. And it's an area that hasn't really gotten a lot of political support over the years. So hopefully it's something that we can start doing now. I remember back in the days when we had ARDA program, and we used to meet once in a while on that stuff. And then it was ISETAs, but it's never really had that kind of a political push in it as it's been evolving over the years. And there's other many areas as well. So I'm going to just kind of go over briefly of some of the activities that we've been doing over the last little while. So I think this portfolio is probably maybe 2 or 3 years old now, so it's still relatively new. So maybe if we can go to the next slide, please. A little bit of background. And again, one of the things that we want to do is support all First Nations, and as we assert our sovereignty, jurisdiction, and our chosen expression of nationhood. I'm from AIAI, and one of the things that we have is an Internation Trade Protocol, which we have had for a couple of years now. And I think that's something that should probably go maybe region-wide and maybe nationwide, because trade and commerce amongst ourselves was something that has been done since way before settlers came. And I think that's an inherent right that we have. And I think that's something that the government doesn't need to have a hand in. And so I think that's maybe something that I want to bring forward at the Chiefs Committee level as well, and maybe bring that back to this table, and maybe even at the national level. So one of the things that we do have right now is a prosperity table, and that's with Ontario. And I think we must have made an impact on them, because they've actually changed their name from Indigenous Affairs to IAFNR now, which is Indigenous Affairs and First Nations Economic Reconciliation. I'll just get to a little bit more of that later, though. So that just, and we know that conservative governments are generally in favor of jobs and economic development, that kind of thing. So that's a good thing. Also, we oversee the employment table and supply chain and procurement project. And we support the ECDEV sector. We have some good folks in there supporting the Chiefs Committee, and also working with IAFNR and Ministry of Labor, Immigration Training, Skills Development, and just to make sure that we're aware of all the government programming and if there's grant information, funding opportunities, when we want to make sure that we keep track of those and get that information out to everyone. And of course, I'm the chair of that right as of now. And we have a lot of course, representation, as we do in all our committees, from the various PTOs and independents, and basically. Next slide, please. One of the more recent things, I guess, in August, we had a prosperity table meeting with the ADM Rep Rebecca Ramsaran, and presentations and discussions were held also with Ontario Securities Commission and Ministry of Finance and Supply Ontario. And at that meeting, reps from Supply Ontario, Ministry of Public Service and Business staff. And again, one of the things that we're undertaking is procurement. And we want to make sure that we're working towards a percentage of set-asides for First Nations businesses and First Nations entrepreneurs for products. And one of the things that we've been doing is we have a supply chain and procurement study. I'll get to a little bit more of that later. And we also had Ontario Securities Commission, and they kind of look after, if you want to buy shares and capital markets and all those kind of things. And so they want to engage with us on that. So I think that's a good thing, especially if it brings more opportunity. So as that develops more, of course, we'll bring those things back. And we also had a collaborative discussion on August 20th, just to kind of brainstorm arenas for collaboration, and there's a lot of them as well. Next, please. Budget submission. We did submit a budget back in 2022. That's when we submitted our initial budget ask, which was for $25 million. and which we did get. And so that went out to different places. And the part that Coup got in particular was for the procurement and supply chain study. And we'll do a little bit more of that. So one of the things that we've been doing is preparing that ECDev needs budget and submission. And so we did get someone to help us with that as well. I forget what the company was, but we did a preliminary report was shared with Minister Rickford at the Leadership Advocacy Strategy meeting, and a draft copy is submitted to the ministry. And if you don't ask, you don't get, right? So we basically asked for $155 million for our budget submission. And we went through a good process of engagement sessions and like OFNIDA, Indigenous Financial Institution reps, and ONWA executive staff. And some of the portions of funding is for food sovereignty. We've had discussions on short-term things like food banks, medium and long-term things too, like maybe greenhouse projects or community agriculture. And also remote programming needs, and also expanding First Nations tourism as well, which is a sort of a booming area. Okay, next slide, please. And we also, one of the other things that we kind of want to take a look at is excise tax revenue sharing. I know we had interest from GRE in this, and we did have a study from Woodward and Company on excise tax sharing feasibility. And they did give us that legal memo on May 3rd. And basically, they had raised the argument that since the federal government shares excise tax with the province on cannabis, a similar argument could be placed for the inclusion of Ontario First Nations on cannabis and tobacco as well, from the Ontario perspective. And based on our internal discussions, we're recommending the creation of a tripartite steering committee with federal and provincial representatives to negotiate the creation of a new excise tax revenue sharing mechanism for Ontario First Nations on FACT products, which, as you know, well, maybe you know, it's fuel, alcohol, cannabis, and tobacco products. And but this is also sort of subject there. We know that there's a legal case in the courts right now, White Montour, and they were charged. They were Mohawk men, and they were charged with violating the Excise Tax Act, and they were imported tobacco from the United States, I believe it was. And so they were actually beat the government and the charges in that case by using a pre-Confederation treaty called a Silver Covenant chain. I don't know if you've ever heard of that one, but that was maybe I'll just explain what that is briefly. I believe it was the story I heard that there was Mohawks. They ran into some Dutch soldiers or what it was, and so they got to discussions, and I guess they asked what would their relationship be like, and then so the Dutch says, well, we'll be like the father and you'll be like the son, and the Mohawk said, no, that's not going to work for us. Goes, how about we be more like brothers? And they designed this covenant chain thing. And so it's a chain made of 3 links, a peace, trust, and friendship, where each 3 links stood for. And you know what happens to silver if you just leave it alone? It becomes tarnished, right? And so the idea is that each party is holding an end of the chain. And if the chain becomes tarnished, if something happens with that relationship, and then the party that felt that the chain was tarnished would rattle the chain, and then so the other party would feel it, and then so then they would get together and they do what they call polishing the chain, and so they did together and symbolically polish that silver chain until it was shiny, bright, and new again, and again, one was not above the other. And they would work together with those 3 principles: peace, trust, and friendship. And so the court found actually that that treaty, covenant chain treaty, was still valid. And so that speaks to more and more things that are being found about our interpretation of treaties. We know, Robinson Superior Treaty, Huron Superior Treaty. The courts are finding more and more in favor of our things. I think years ago, Treaty 6, they found the oral arguments about the medicine chest was also valid as well. So I think things are turning more in our favor. So anyway, I guess the basis of the fact is that still in appeal right now. I know AIAI, we're also submitting legal arguments in favor of upholding those things. And so, this discussion is sort of going to be dependent also on that court case. So anyway, but we still think that we should at least have that sit down and have that discussion. And so we can bring back options for you to look at in terms of excise tax. Okay, next, access to banking. Thank you. We had a couple years ago now, resolution acquiring financial self-determination rights to the creation of a proposed First Nations financial entity. I guess it was last year here in the summer. And basically what it is again, we know that we have a lot of First Nations have a lot of cash heavy businesses, and a lot of the major five banks in Canada don't really accept that cash. So, I'm assuming that there's probably a lot of lumpy mattresses all over the province right now because of that. But one of the things that if you get rich enough, you don't have to work because your money works for you. But if you can't put your money in where it gains interest, you got lazy money. So we have to have a financial entity where if you put your money in, you can also benefit from those things. And so that's what we're looking to potentially look at is a Schedule I bank. And so we can have different depository requirements. So we did a legal feasibility and a banking feasibility scope of work. And we did get a couple of proposals on that. And we also put that into the Ministry of IAO for funding. And hopefully we'll get that so we can proceed on that. And we're also looking for other funding options for that as well. And we're working, and we also been working with First Nations Bank. As we know, they started out, but their depository requirements are still fall under the TD, because that's where they started out, was TD. It's now 85% owned by First Nations, but they're, and we've been meeting with the head of that bank over the last little while. And so he's agreed to help collaborate with us on creating pro-First Nations and anti-FinTrack legislation and other policies that favor First Nations. And again, this is going to be based on economic reconciliation and the moral obligation to decolonize the legal frameworks that affect First Nations. And again, the government view for so long, and it continues to be, that our rights were frozen at first contact. But to me, that's a two-way street. If our rights are frozen, their rights should be frozen too. And that's based on doctrines of superiority. And we have to start taking those out, because those are based on 1400s racism. And that doesn't belong in today's society, right? And we all acted as nations when Europeans came over at first contact. And so the thing I always say is, what's so special about meeting a white man that the moment you meet him, your rights are frozen in time? I don't know if I'm going too far here, but I think, hope nobody takes offense to that. Anyway, yes, European culture. Anyway, so that's the basis of, what I'm saying in terms of decolonizing, because that's entrenched, and that led to all the negative things that happened, residential school, 60 scoop, MMIWG, all these sorts of things. and it's entrenched in things like the federal government's inherent rights policy is different than our understanding. It's in specific claims, it's in large claims, it's in ATR, it's in all these things. Anyway, rant over. We're going to try to continue to work on this, and so we're going to continue to work on that banking issue. So hopefully we can get our own financial institution and bring back again those options for you. One of the other things is supply chain and procurement project, and again, this is under a sort of economic reconciliation. And so this is about data and finding out what's out there. And so we've been carrying out an exercise to contact previously recorded businesses, and we've adopted a multi-channel approach. We've sort of got about 700 businesses that have registered with our portal. They're yet to be certified though, and I'll get onto more of that later in a bit. But the COOP project team, we've continued the efforts. We want to organize promotional and educational events aimed at capturing more businesses and inviting them to join the initiative. And our consultants, which is IFSD, they have estimated that there's approximately 800 large First Nation enterprises in Ontario and about 1,300 sole proprietors. And there's probably more than that, to be honest. And what we've been trying to do is the development and draft of a first iteration of a directory and a map, and also a portal, web portal that can be accessed, by First Nations, by government, by private individuals as well. And we're consulting the buyer and seller sides to refine that directory. And working with that consultant, we developed a second round survey. So hopefully we'll get more businesses. Once we get all that data, we can assess the supply chain and procurement gaps. Then we can talk to the government and say, okay, can we have a minimum in this area? Because we have to know what areas that First Nation businesses are in, what services and products that they can provide. And again, encourage governments, even provincially, nationally, municipal wide as well, to give First Nations their business as part of that reconciliation. I remember stories from our First Nation where we were really good agriculturalists, and at some point, Indian agents came and took away all the farming implements. And I know that happened in different places as well, where non-Indigenous farmers used modern machinery, but we were stuck with using old cattle and old stuff, and sometimes taken away altogether and discouraged from taking part in that economy. And then they introduced the welfare system as well around that time, encouraging us not to work and then complain about it. So hopefully the survey will be rolled out by the end of December. And actively, we'll want to promote that in the new year to everyone. And again, we've identified a need for a certification process to ensure that First Nation businesses that say they're First Nations are owned by First Nations. And we want to prevent the misuse of procurement set-asides and policies for First Nations businesses. I don't know if you've been watching the news lately, but there's one of the Liberal ministers, Randy Boissonnault, has recently come under fire for that, for saying that he's got out of First Nations business when he actually is not First Nations. And I remember OPP was giving him heck there, asking him to resign, but he didn't, I don't think. So if there's pretendians, there can be pretendian businesses as well. I think we all know that, right? Anyway, the project team, we're seeking input from a technical working group. And so we want to get some definitions and processes to present to key stakeholders. And we want to arrive at a set of acceptable and approved definitions for First Nation businesses. And this is in order to certify that they are indeed First Nations. So there's got to be a balance between making sure you are who you are, and we don't want to be too intrusive either at the same time. So again, we're in the process of development of data storage and access infrastructure, and we want to make sure that we comply with OCAP principles and respect data sovereignty for the First Nations. And after a round of certification, we were aiming for a launch in 2025 sometime. So there's quite a bit of work to do. Also, there. Okay, next employment table background. In early 2019, I remember. Well, one of the other tables I'm at, it was in social, is the joint social services table. This was brought there, and we didn't think that was quite the right right place. But their Ministry of Training, Colleges, and University announced the plan to integrate Ontario Works Employment Assistant Program and ODSP Employment Supports Program into Employment Ontario. So at the time, they said, this is not going to affect First Nations. And I know we had a lot of people that were kind of worried. They wanted to make sure that their funding wasn't really going to be affected in a negative way. So we had people that were worried from the ISETAs as well as Ontario Works. And so we didn't think that was quite the right forum at GIST. And so ECDEV department came along not too long after that. And again, a one-size-fits-all approach is not going to work. We have to realize that there's different socioeconomic conditions all over First Nations in Ontario, whether you're remote, whether you're a large community, whether you're north, whether you're south, whether you're in the middle. And so we have an employment table working group taking a look at this with the mandate of providing you, the Leadership Council, and the Chiefs and Assembly with our advice, views, and recommendations to design an employment services model. And that'll kind of enhance what we already have, not take away from it. And including the improvement of employment training, skills development services, and programming. So that's still in the works. We have, and we have been doing some work on that since 2023. And we had an employment services forum and a client pathways meeting, and that brought together employment training working group members. And that includes ISETA people, ONWA people, Ontario Works people, and other technical people as well. So these meetings and forums resulted in establishing principles for a First Nation approach to employment transformation, offering insights into the current employment service models in Ontario. And so Ontario's already well into this. They got service system managers and all this other stuff, but we want to make sure that we want to articulate that in a way that benefits all First Nations. So we have a joint table on employment services. We have been proposed. And so we want us in Ontario to sit down on that to collaboratively develop a framework to allow us to design our own employment transformation model. And we have a new TPA signed with the Ministry of Labor. And the employment table will be funded until 2027. So we have a good funding commitment there to carry on this work. And this will allow for that work between COO and to continue. And again, the employment framework we intend to bring back to you, the Chiefs and Assembly. We won't agree to anything on your behalf on that. So again, we want to make sure that we bring everything back to you. Okay, I think that's it for the update there. And if there's any questions, I'll be happy to have Arvind answer them. Okay. Anybody online? No? Okay. Uh-oh, I see trouble. Yeah. Yeah, Mike 2.
Thank you for the update, Joel. If the big banks won't allow our people to have a business account, how do we start our own bank? Do we need legislation or is there a policy change, or what's needed to be done to clear this barrier?
Well, one of the things that we want to do is get a feasibility study done, and that'll answer a lot of those questions. But right now we're being told that there's regulations around, I guess, fraud and stuff that would go against that. Like, but we've had other people tell us different as well.
Yeah.
And so we want to have the actual discussion, I guess, with the folks at the top. And because right now there's only 5 banks, and there's a lot of other banks and trusts, but all our depository requirements are tied to one of those 5 Schedule 1 banks. And so we want to get our own Schedule 1 bank where we can determine our own depository requirements. But again, there's those international banking frameworks like SWIFT and FinTrack and all those kind of things. and we have to make sure that we're in compliance with them as well.
Because we just seem to waiting and waiting and waiting for something to happen, and they take their own sweet time, that and there's no urgency to it on the part of the government.
No, there's not either. And that's why I think, everything that we do, we have to back up with things either from RCAP or UNDRIP or calls to action. And there's a lot of things in there that support economic reconciliation. Again, supporting our economies. And again, there's a lot of overreach in terms of, them wanting to dictate the rules to us. And that's the thing we have to continue to fight against. Yeah, Mike one.
Aneen, Jeff Jacobs, proxy, Curve Lake First Nation. Thank you for that information, and that's very important work. And I'm glad to see for a second time in the cycle that another submission is being made. And my question is, and I may have missed it, but what is the timeline that exists for us to hear back from the ministry on the approval of the 155 million?
I don't think there's a set timeline, but I think that we want to definitely hear from them, before the new fiscal year starts, so that we can start to plan for whatever they're going to do. But it didn't take that long last time. It took maybe a couple months, and we just did this a couple weeks ago now. So I'm hoping before the end of the new year, maybe we'll hear something.
Okay. And then follow-up question is,
Yep.
Is there anything in there that you know off the top of your head that is specifically for entrepreneurs?
Maybe I can get Arvind to jump in for this question here.
Yeah, last time we got about 10 million for the entrepreneurs soft loans and grants. This time we have proposed about 46 million for that.
Okay. And is there a social element to that as well, Arvind?
No, the social element is not there. It is all about economic development to put the loans to all the entrepreneurs or small businesses.
Right.
And there will be also a loan for e-commerce for the businesses to get trained on e-commerce.
Okay.
That is another separate 4 million, then that's 46 million.
Okay.
Yeah.
Would it be safe to say though social entrepreneurism is going to be included in that?
So we haven't defined it that way. If there is
Okay.
a social entrepreneur, maybe they can apply, because this money will not come to Chiefs of Ontario. It will go to the 8 Indigenous financial institutions
Right.
in Ontario, and they will make their own programs and policies as directed by the government.
Okay.
And as we have put our submission, but we haven't gone into that kind of detail.
Okay. Miigwech.
Thank you.
They are a part of our groups that we meet with regularly, so we can advocate for social entrepreneurship to be included when they're doling out these loans and stuff. Yeah, thank you. Mike 3.
Good morning, Chief Archie Wabas, Waterman Lake First Nation. As I was listening to the presentation, this is a new initiative where Chiefs of Ontario had taken we have development corporations in our communities. Waterman doesn't have one yet. I know other communities have one. Plus we have regional businesses, their investments. When we're talking about prosperity, why we're talking about prosperity is because of our conditions in our communities, right? Like a impoverished kind of condition where government have not provided enough dollars to our infrastructure and services. Prosperity, what it means to me is let's focus on where we can get money to support our communities and our individuals, our First Nation members. Our focus should also be on the big business. Are these big businesses that we need to look at or capture? One of them is the mining, resource extraction. That's a big business. Billions and billions of dollars are taken out from our lands, and we're just sitting here and talking away and doing nothing. We allow companies to extract those resources. Those resources were supposed to be for us, and we haven't had the company started in Ontario, First Nation company that can extract these resources. Instead, the foreign companies come in and take those resources from our lands. I think we should change our focus. Our focus should let's focus on these big businesses so we can prosper in the future. One of them is mining industry, and there are other businesses that we can look into. Invest in casinos, maybe in international wide or something. If we had a mining company, we could not just mine in Canada, we can mine internationally, right? Prosperity means we focus on these big revenue generating businesses, and that's what I'm thinking. That's what I'm thinking. You know, is there a way that we could consider looking at these big business opportunities that we should take on and create prosperity and wealth for our communities? I think so. I think so. I think it also needs a political will, community support.
In a budget?
Yeah. I would like I would like to add that and include that in your review.
Yep.
Look at the big businesses that can contribute to our wealth and prosperity. All right. Guys, thank you.
All right, thank you for that. I'd just like to have a couple comments on what you've put out there. One of the budget items is $60 million that we asked for a wealth creation fund, and that's something that we could use collectively, perhaps. Also, I would suggest that we do have a sovereign wealth fund that COO is part of, and they're the ones that hold all those Hydro One shares, right? So maybe we can get an update for them next time we're together. And then I know they're generating money. We can maybe use some of those collectively to invest in other things as well. And maybe they're already considering those. I'm just not sure. The other thing about mining in your territories, one of the comments I'd like to make about that is that there was a Bill C-92 legal challenge, which is the child welfare bill. That was Quebec challenged. They went to the Supreme Court. They lost. But one of the notable things about that may affect other areas is that this is the first time the federal court ever said that UNDRIP had the force of federal law now. And of course, one of the things in UNDRIP is FPIC, free prior informed consent. And so one of the things that I've been saying out there is that free prior informed consent is not something for the federal government or any government to determine. And that means that you determine what it means for your nation to consent. And we should not be viewed anymore as detriments or things to be gotten around when people want to do things, but it's a necessary cost of business to get the consent of the First Nation if you're dealing in their territory, and that comes with mining or anything else, right? I agree with you 100% on that, and just quick comments on that. Microphone 2, please. Yep.
Chief Allen, Constance Lake. I just got a few questions here that I keep hearing all the time. Is this Aboriginal procurement and how do the First Nations utilize that to our advantage? And then the economic reconciliation minister, and how is that going to support the First Nations in moving forward in economic development and prosperity? Because we talk to the bureaucrats, we talk to the ministers, but nobody knows how we use this as an advantage for us First Nations to benefit economically and moving our First Nations forward to prosperity. Miigwech.
All right, thank you for that. Maybe what we can do is we can get copies of our budget submissions sent out to all the chiefs as well, just for your information. Then you'll see the areas that we have submitted for. And a lot of it is going to be supporting entrepreneurs, First Nations businesses. Again, a $60 million wealth creation fund. Again, last time we got some money to help with trades and training and stuff like that to help individuals as well. And again, the part that Ku got was on the procurement study and creating a web portal for First Nation businesses to access. And so these are, I think, things like these that we can start to make a difference at least a little bit. And if we can get some money out of the government. And so, you know, one of the things with conservatives is they always respond well to saying, I remember when I used to go lobbying all when I was chief at Oneida, I always say, you know, we have a AAA credit rating, we don't run deficits, we want business partnerships, and we want to create employment. You know, we just created a 64-bed long-term care. We created 70 jobs with this. We want to make sure that we're part of the economy and we contribute. The fastest growing segment of our population is the youth population, and we want to make sure that they have opportunities for employment as well. So these are all kind of things that conservatives tend to react well to and respond well when it comes to economic development stuff. So I think, you know, while we have them in there and they respond well, let's, you know, try to get what we can so that we can help our First Nations and our First Nation members and citizens to do well for themselves in this world and create wealth for our nations. Yeah. All right. Any other questions? All right. All right. Thank you, everyone.
Miigwech, Grand Chief. Miigwech for your presentation and all the information that you shared there. Arda, that's pretty old, Grand Chief Arda. 1985, I think.
Tell a quick story about that. We're all the ARDA holders in Ontario were meeting, and they said, well, if we're going to meet all the time, maybe we should come up with a name for ourselves. And I said, sure, what about ARDA holders of Ontario? They said, that sounds good. I said, or AHO for short. Okay.
He walked right into that one. Thank you, Grand Chief. But also thank you very much for reminding us about that covenant chain and how tarnished it is and how tarnished it has become, and that we all have a responsibility to shine it up, but more so our partners have to do their part in the shining up. Because when you listen to the story, when he talks about that chain, that when we were standing on the ground holding that chain and we rattled it, it was the signal to them that they were supposed to bring the gifts. And if it rattles some more gifts. So some of those things still are what we're talking about today. Old treaties, old covenant chains, wampum belts, all of those things that are coming to light and have greater understanding today. So Miigwech, Grand Chief. I would like to invite Chief Shelley Moore-Frappier. She's the chair of the Data Champions Advisory Committee, and she's going to do the update for the data and research sector. Shelley? Right here.
Hey, Kwekwe, Ojo Giwe no Kwene Dishnagaz, Likando Dem, Tamiagamana Bekwe and Dao. I'm Chief Shelley Moore Frappier. I am Temagami First Nation, and well, I am not Temagami First Nation, but I'm the chief of Temagami First Nation, and I'm the chair. So I guess to begin and talk, I guess I inherited the chair from the ORC after he left the committee, but just recognizing the people on the committee because Elder Vera is on our committee as well. Dr. Jennifer Walker, Dr. Daryl Manitowabi, Michael Shull, Dr. Emily Ferries, Larry Solt, myself, Chris Moshquash, and Gary Allen. And some of the staff that we have here in Thunder Bay, Kayla Campbell, who is our implementation manager, and Emily Harding, who is the senior coordinator. After the presentation or during, I think they're still located outside in the hallway, and they have this great swag for everybody and information about what is going on and how you can get involved. So as we heard from our previous presentation, I get to talk about data, and data informs everything that we do. Data sovereignty is essential to self-determination. Without control of our data, our decision-making is reliant on external sources that may not align with our needs or our priorities. It allows us to govern effectively by providing the evidence we need to make informed decisions about our communities, lands, and futures. Our data includes sacred knowledge, language, traditions, and historical records. Data sovereignty ensures that this knowledge is protected and respected and preserved for future generations. When we think about data, we have to think about how reliable it is, how accurate our data strengthens our ability to hold governments and corporations accountable. It also empowers us to advocate for our rights, resources, and interests effectively. Data drives innovation and development, and controlling our data means we can use it to enhance education, health, housing, and economic opportunities in ways that are meaningful to us. It prevents the exploitation of our data by external entities for profit or research that doesn't benefit our communities. So of course, we have challenges, and the current systems often leave First Nations reliant on government or third-party data that doesn't reflect our realities. There's a history of data being used to marginalize and oppress us and leading to mistrust. The infrastructure and resources needed for data governance are still being developed in many communities, and we understand that. And that's part of our ask of the chiefs in assembly today, because we will be looking at coming to your community and asking so that we can start to identify the priorities, the regional priorities here in Ontario as we begin to look at data sovereignty and all of those things like collecting and how we're going to store that information, and understanding why this is so important for us to make good decisions and to plan better, to make legal arguments as we have to fight for our rights as well. So I guess I get to click this. And the First Nations Regional Information Governance Center project is in phase 1, and funding will continue to 2027. The implementation for the project has had some bumps in the road, I guess you can call it. So we've had staffing of the project has changed, and there's been many changes in leadership of the project. So the project is part of the main projects within the First Nations data strategy, and the project is within the research and data management sector, which is led by the Director of Research and Data Management, Carmen Jones. And the Data Champion Advisory Committee has met in October to review the work plan and staffing for the project. Work plan has been developed, a video has been drafted, and the questions for the communities have been developed. Again, the information booth we had at Indigenous Services Gathering Week of November 5th to the 7th in Toronto. And at the meeting over the past week with the IGC project team has been here sharing the information. And I mentioned that at the beginning. Our information session was held with First Nation leadership on November 15th, and an OCAP development officer has been posted. So our next steps, I guess I don't really have to, I could read my prompter, not my paper, right? Anyways, the first next steps are the continuation and information gathering will be undertaken, and an invitation letter will be sent to leadership to discuss how they want to be engaged. A video will be developed, and Data Champion Advisory Committee will continue to guide the project and to provide advice. The next meeting for the advisory committee will be at the end of January 2025. So that's my short and sweet presentation, but emphasizing the importance of the engagement piece so that when we do reach out, that you are engaging with our team so that we can make, so that we can really identify the priorities of the region and that your voice is heard. So, miigwech. I'll take any questions. I'm seeing none.
Miigwech, Shelley, for the sharing of the Data Champions update. No questions or comments? Really good job. 35 chiefs in person, 8 chiefs on the line, 43 chiefs altogether. Quorum is 22. And when our young man comes in, he's going to be introducing a resolution. He has the one final resolution to be presenting. Unless Adam wants to claim to be young, he can come up here and do it.
Chief Miracle of Housing presentation.
All right, Chief Miracle. Agenda item for you and your presentation. Chief Miracle.
So back in September the 3rd, there was an article in the Toronto Star. There's 250 million people in Toronto that are at risk of homelessness, 10,000 sleeping in shelters, 431 live in tents. The big city mayors have had their own campaign strategy to get money. One of the areas that they were putting pressure on the government was to release for Doug Ford to put their share of the Canada Ontario Housing Benefit money up. So from 2020 to 2028, Canada will invest $663,989,600 in this COB, Canada Ontario Housing Benefit Fund. And from 2020 till now, First Nations who rent on the reserve have not been eligible to apply for COB. There was no reason for them not to be eligible. It actually was contradictory to the National Housing Strategy. It was to help people struggling to pay rent. And so now I did make inquiries with CMHC and got a copy of the bilateral CMHC housing agreement between the Canada and Ontario. There was nothing that precluded on reserve from getting that housing benefit for rent to help them pay rent. So it's now available. So it'll be rolling out in Hastings County where we are. So they're taking applications with their housing department. There are 47 counties that in the province of Ontario that administer this money. Your citizens pick up an application there at their department. It's sent to the Ministry of Finance. The Ministry of Finance then approves it and sends the check to the individual to help them pay rent. So it prevents people from being evicted. And so right now we can't, there's a lack of compassionate service because if people fall behind with the rent, the end result is they get evicted and they become homeless. And this is affecting an awful lot of people as they struggle with issues of affordability for not affordable places to rent and food and everything else. And so this is one tool that will deal with some of that. It's not going to cure it all, but there's now some new money and the discrimination appears to be going away now for on-reserve renters. And there's more money being invested off reserve than on reserve. And you almost have to question, is the government's policy to have our people move off reserve into off the reserve to avoid the investments in reserve for infrastructure and housing that's needed, because right now that's not even, doesn't appear to be on the radar. And so $4 billion is going to be invested off reserve for 4 years. There's 918 million for on reserve. There's quite a difference in those numbers.
Chief Miracle, thank you very much for sharing that information. And anybody has any additional questions, you'll see Chief Miracle.
It's called the Canada Ontario Housing Benefit, and it helps people pay rent.
All right, thank you. Mike 3.
Hello, Chief Miracle. Is that for Ontario only? 4 billion? Or Canada?
The presentation was 4 billion on the EARN funding, which is not COB. COB is a rent program.
Okay.
Don't confuse the COB with EARN. It's separate.
Okay.
COB is just a rent subsidy.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief Miracle. Got the resolution? So I'll ask young Adam Fiddler, co-chair, to do the resolution.
Miigwech, Vera. My colleague, our youth co-chair was going to do this resolution, so I'm not going to pretend to be the youth co-chair. But we'll go ahead. In your resolution packages, we did have one final resolution. So the resolution is 2430A. Everybody should have a hard copy. Also, it was handed out. Also, just scan your QR code or go online and you can find it electronically. So it's titled Seeking Fair Compensation for First Nations Impacted by TC Energy's Canada Mainline Pipeline. I just want to make sure that this is the correct resolution. And the mover is Chief Sherry Taylor, who I know is here. Oh, right here. Thank you. Seconder is Chief Sonny Gagnon. I did not see Chief Gagnon. I'm not sure if he's online. Chief Taylor, do you know if there was a seconder, another seconder? No, we're not. Okay. I just want to confirm. I don't see Chief Gagnon. Are you in the room? I don't think I've seen him, and he's not online. So I will ask for a seconder to the resolution. I see Chief Allen approaching the microphone too.
Chief Allen, Constance Lake.
Okay, Miigwech. So we have a seconder. We'll just get the resolutions team to make that change on the resolution up on the screen. So whereas 1 to 7, I will not read. I'll go to the therefore be it resolved. So it reads, therefore be it resolved that we, the chiefs in assembly, number 1, support the continued efforts of Airland First Nation and Ganugaming First Nations ongoing litigation related to this matter. Number 2, direct the ORC and LC to write a letter to TC. Those acronyms are explained earlier in the resolution, ensuring they act in good faith with Airland First Nation and Ganugaming First Nation with the ongoing negotiations and meetings. 3, legal to explore options in which the chiefs in Ontario, in which the chiefs in assembly may lend support to include all impacted First Nation and treaty lands by the TC mainline. So that is the resolution before you. Chief Taylor, do you want to speak to the resolution? So microphone number 1, please.
Miigwech, thanks, Adam. Wapshke Nimki Bnesekwe, Chief Taylor, Ganagamin First Nation, Ogamakwe. Let's just say thank you to the drum this morning for their beautiful song. As I spoke about this resolution, the first day we met with Kate Kempton, our lawyer present, this is an ongoing litigation with between Airline Ganagamin and TC Energy. As you know, in the resolution, it speaks about the history. It speaks about that there has been a main line that ran from Alberta right to the border of Ontario and Quebec. That line was put in the early 50s before the duty to consult. These companies think that they don't have to sit and do any type of anything with the First Nations. They think that they're, you know, just because it came in, this line came in before duty to consult, that they don't have to negotiate with First Nations. It's not fair. You know, there is other municipalities where this line crosses. They're receiving compensation already. About $140 million a year is provided to Ontario and municipalities from TC Energy. And why are First Nations excluded? So why this resolution matters? We need the support from the chiefs of Ontario to bring TC Energy back to the bargaining table and to negotiate with us in good faith. We are most likely to succeed if we have full support. This is a big deal. It is about the older projects, like I have mentioned, you know, before duty to consult. These older projects that are still there and still impacting our way of life. They get a free pass. And why is that? And that's just not right and not fair. It's time that these multi-billion-dollar companies that have expropriated and monetized off the natural resources that were meant to be shared through the honor of our treaties are made to pay up because their rent is due. Thank you. Miigwech.
Miigwech. Chief Taylor. Chief Allen, any comments? Microphone number 2.
I support this resolution as well, because the Trans-Canada Pipeline runs through our traditional territory, maybe a kilometer away from our, maybe 2, maybe stretching it with 1, but it runs through our territory as well. I know we had many successes with Hydro One, and I know some of the revenues that they're starting to compensate the First Nations. So I can't see why Trans-Canada gets a free ride on this whole pipeline that runs from right across Canada, and all First Nations should be benefiting from their free ride. And I think this comes to the question that I asked earlier about economic reconciliation, our 5% Aboriginal procurement and how we utilize that to our advantages. But as I said, this will benefit all the First Nations that this pipeline rides the free train about. So as I said, I support this resolution. Miigwech.
Miigwech. Chief Allen. So the resolution is before you. I just want to clarify, there's some acronyms in number 2. I said it's probably explained in the resolution. So ORC, obviously, Ontario Regional Chief. LC would be Leadership Council. And TC, of course, is the company, Trans-Canada, that we're talking about in the resolution. Any more comments or questions on the resolution? I'm looking online. Second call. Comments, questions? Chief Miracle. Microphone two.
I am in support of the resolution, but I would like to ask the chief, has the utility company ever offered you a PILT payment, a payment in lieu of taxes? Because I know there's one utility company in our community pays us a PILT payment, but the pressure seemed to be on, you could get this PILT payment if you had a taxation bylaw. So has there been any kind of conversation like that with your community?
Microphone number one, Chief Taylor.
To answer your question, no, they haven't. All they've offered was this, they have a Build Strong type of foundation that they want us to apply for, just like anybody in Ontario can apply to it. And that's what they refer us to. So it's basically just treating us like any other public citizen in Ontario. And that's what they refer us to. Thanks.
Yeah. Well, what I told the utility company that I don't believe it's up to them to dictate to our government that we need a taxing bylaw for them to use our land that's under claim. And so they sent the bill check and without the taxing bylaw. So maybe you should talk to a lawyer about a PILT payment to find, because that's how they pay. They pay because the municipalities have property tax bylaws. They tax them for that, the use of the land. And I said, really, the township shouldn't be getting the money. It's our land. We should be getting the money. So we have the same thing, but there's only one utility company. We don't, it's the oil pipeline or the gas pipeline, but the gas pipeline would be TC Energy. And I don't think they're paying anything, but I think the oil one is.
Miigwech, thank you, Chief Miracle, for the recommendations. Before I go to microphone three, I just saw something change on up on the screen, and I just want to clarify there were no changes. Maybe it was just my eyes under number three. Looks like it's the same version. Okay, thank you. Microphone three, Chief Abbas.
Thank you. On the last, therefore be it resolved, it says legal to explore options to include impacted First Nations and treaty lands. The pipeline we're talking about, there was a map yesterday that was given, right? There was a map of the pipeline, and then it included treaty number 9 area of the pipeline. If we explore legal options, will that be included? Like, what is the mover and seconder? The pipeline that goes through treaty number 9. There was a map yesterday. I've seen a pipeline going through treaty number 9 area. And the third, therefore be it resolved, says explore, legal to explore options. Will that be included? Treaty number 9 area pipeline be included in the legal review?
Yes, because it goes right through our territory and we're Treaty 9.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much.
Miigwech. Floor is open. Microphone 2.
I just, Chief Michelle Solomon, I just wanted to make a quick comment about this matter. You know, some of you may have seen, some of you obviously probably haven't, but Fort William First Nation did a media release on Friday regarding OPG's generating station at Kekabeka Falls. So this has been in operation for 118 years already. And Fort William First Nation was certainly left out because, of course, you know, this all took place before regulations were in place. But now what we see happening is that there's regulatory loopholes that allow these projects to be under the veil of a, you know, just an update to the project, when in actuality, they're a complete rehaul, like it's a complete rebuild. In this particular case, they are leaving one building standing as a heritage site, and in reality, the project is completely new. And they want to go ahead and push through with this project and give Fort William First Nation, you know, a few set-asides, but, you know, nothing, no meaningful partnership, no meaningful consultation and engagement. So, you know, I 100% support this. And I think that we really need to have our eyes on these projects that are from, you know, long-standing things that have been in place that didn't include our people a long time ago, and that, you know, we not allow them to bulldoze through our First Nations any longer. So thank you for this.
Miigwech, Chief Solomon. So with that, I don't see anybody else approaching the microphones. Looking online, I don't see any hands that are raised. So at this point, I'm going to call for question and deal with the resolution. Oh, one more comment, or you? Ogumakwe, Chief Taylor.
No, just make the changes. It's so the acronyms are spelled out instead of using the acronyms in the resolution. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So that would be under number 2, paragraph 2. So just a minor change, but formality, I'm going to ask the mover and seconder. There was the mover obviously requesting it, seconder. I got the thumbs up under paragraph 2, and then we'll go to paragraph 3. Just to spell out the acronyms. Not a big change, but just for the record, I'll read it. Ontario Regional Chief and Leadership Council and TransCanada, TC. Actually, you may want to put the full name. Energy. It's TC Energy. My colleague Vera is keeping me in line here. Miigwech. So the full name that we've referred to in the preamble, I think it's TC Energy. And I'll get the team to clarify that. I'm just looking at the monitoring the changes on online, the resolutions team. I believe it's TC Energy, but I'll let you clarify. There we go. So the change in paragraph 2, and then and I'll call for a vote on the resolution. So TC would now be TC Energy, and then TC in brackets. And then I don't think there's any need to change paragraph 3. So the resolution is before you. Chiefs, delegates online as well. Any opposition? Any opposition to the resolution? Opposition, I'm looking online. Last call, I see none. Any abstentions? Any abstentions? Any abstentions? I see none. So with that, resolution is carried by consensus. Miigwech, thank you. So at this point, we are going to start to wrap up. We have our closing protocols, our closing remarks. I'm going to turn it over to my colleagues. We'll start with Pierre, and Vera will be wrapping up. If I can get somebody to let the drum know that we're going to be... Okay, very good. We are going to be wrapping up very shortly, so the drum will be making their way back. For me, just final comments. Chiefs, it's been good to be here. Good to see everybody the last 3 days. It's been an honor to be here helping out. I'd like to commend you for your dedication, all your hard work, and all of the good things that you're doing for the people of your communities. So with that, miigwech, panmami nagawap na. Yeah. Nanakum guys sigmach, we dub naguk.
All right, it is that time, you know, we start wrapping up our assembly. And I just want to say, you know, Chimigwech to all of our Gimok, the proxies, our knowledge keepers, our Utes that are everywhere in this building right now. For me personally, I think it was a very good assembly. You know, I've enjoyed it. I've learned lots more information added to my noggin. And before I call up our ORC, I just want to say, you know, there's a couple of vendors that got here late, so go support them. I'm watching all of you go support our vendors. I'm just kidding. But yeah, it's another Christmas present. But yeah, I just want to say Chimiigwech to all of you, to all of the leadership that are still here, to all of our youth that are still here. So at this time, I'm gonna call up Ontario Regional Chief for his closing remarks.
Good morning, everyone. Furiously looking for my notes over there. I got about 10 of these little pads going and putting all kinds of notes down, and I couldn't find the right one. So here goes my speech that I had all written out on a napkin for you. It's been a really good 3 days that we've been here together talking about a number of issues number of files that affect all of our communities in so many different ways. Know that we've had a number of resolutions that are important to the work that you are doing in your communities and how that we can support those positions and those regional positions that we have. You know, we started with the in-camera session around the FSA and the child welfare system that impacts our community so greatly in so many ways. You know, we've had lots of conversation and discussion around that, and we now have a mandate to continue to move forward. And you know, I'm pretty certain that as we move into December and head off to the AFN in Ottawa, that you know this will be continue to be an agenda item that we'll be discussing in the next couple of weeks. But I can tell you that our team here at the Chiefs of Ontario is committed to advancing that file and all the many other files that we have, and to ensure that we're meeting the expectations that you have set out for us. The Health Equity Fund that we also talked about as well is important to our communities. We've heard lots about the health and well-being of our people, of our nations, and the support that is desperately needed, the mental health, the addictions. And so as we see reform to hopefully the health system, at least from a federal level, that'll make a difference in our communities, in your communities, and the work that all of you do. Talked a bit about the greenhouse gas and the impacts that has. And I know that as I've outlined at different points in time, providing you with an update on the work that we're doing in the Regional Chief's Office and the Chiefs of Ontario to ensure that we're getting the rebates or some resources back into our communities. And that's where, you know, I can't stress enough that when I'm meeting with ministers, the people that are impacted the most by the greenhouse gas is the families, the children, the families, the ones that are struggling, the ones that don't have the option to buy heat pumps, and those in the north, the extreme amounts of service charge that's put on diesel fuel that's being shipped into communities to give power to homes, energy. There's no other option. There's no other option but to have thousands and thousands of dollars, you know, charged on top of that for something that is greatly out of the control of the community is unacceptable. So we're going to continue to lobby, continue to advocate to have a fair and equitable system for rebates, bring that money back to our members who have paid for it. And ultimately, at the end of the day, when the community pays for it through the band council services, it's the community that pays that price. When you're paying thousands of dollars in fees, means less services going to community, makes the job of each and every one of you as community leaders much more difficult. And so we're going to continue to advance that. Know that we've talked around the mining, ATR, spec claims, and I've outlined to you the priorities that we have around that area. I know that these are very complex, difficult issues. The mining, we don't have a regional position on that, and I respect that. I understand that. Some communities want to be involved, others don't. But it's how we get there, right? We have a government that doesn't care about protection of the environment, government that doesn't care about our rights. It's our job at the Chiefs of Ontario to continue to remind them and advance your positions in your community jurisdiction. The inherent jurisdiction that you have over your resources, your people, and the collective responsibility we have as Anishinaabe, Hungahunga people to protect the lands, the waters, the resources that were given to us by the Creator. And so we'll continue to push hard, lobby, and advocate for the government to do the right thing, and while reminding them about your jurisdiction and your rights. I do want to acknowledge the work that we have done in the other areas. I know the housing is a big area for us as well. There's not a single community that I've visited or a chief that I've talked to that hasn't said that housing is a priority. Housing is an area very difficult, plays into additions to reserve as well. Everybody wants more homes in their community, wants their people to be in their community, back in community, so that they can be with their people, their families, overcrowding. And so our committees will continue to advance what work we have set out, the work that you have set out to help address some of those pressures that you have in your communities around housing. And so I've outlined as well some of the work that we're doing on the border and the J Treaty Border Alliance and the work that they've done and the advocacy that many communities are doing to ensure that our folks that are crossing the border, that the right that they have is acknowledged, but also that the treatment that they receive, as the first peoples of the land. The parallel line that was drawn across our community, across our territorial lands, was not of our doing, but the impacts it has created has hindered and hurt so many communities. Not only my home community of Akwesasne, but so many more. The international line runs from one coast to the other, and there's so much happening across that border, but there's also, it blocks opportunities. Many of our communities want prosperity, but also want to trade with our brothers and sisters in the South, as we have always done. But then when the colonial line was drawn and the taxes and the duties and all these other things were placed, makes it impossible for us to do that. And so we've talked a bit about the economic development aspect of what we're doing at the Chiefs of Ontario to help support community development, to help support sustainability, right? One thing about exercising our own jurisdiction is we also need the resources to do that. We also need the supports, run our own businesses, community businesses, trade. It's important for nationhood, to exercise our jurisdiction. Because we know that the government, as we advance as community, advance your jurisdiction and exercise your inherent right, the government doesn't like that. And they sure as heck ain't gonna give you resources to do that. So we have to have sustainable community businesses to be able to support our nations and to bring prosperity. And so we'll continue to advance that work. So in closing, I want to say, I want to go miigwech to each and every one of you for the commitment that you make to our organization here to participate, but also to the communities. I know that community work is difficult. There's a lot of great things happening in our region though. And as I've said before, when I go to the AFN, when I sit at tables with the government, you know, I remind them of the great things that are happening in this region, how diverse we are, how great we are. And it's not great because of anything more than each and every one of your commitment to your communities, and advancing the work that you have to do and set out for you. And so I want to say miigwech to all of those who have helped organize today's event. And I know that, you know, as our staff work hard to set up the events, we sometimes miss a few things. You know, we're always looking at ways to better improve. And so as I continue to do the work as the Ontario Regional Chief, we'll look at how we can improve our agenda, set up in the room, the facility, because I know we were getting rained on as we came in yesterday, which, you know, I think that we want to be in a big space because we have been. AFN every now and then, you know, jams us into this little caucus room where we're shoulder to shoulder, and we're happy to do that, but there's a lot of us and we're mighty. And so we need to make sure we have the facilities to support that. And so we'll continue to improve in the work that we do. You know, and as I've said before, I'm here to listen and I'm here to learn so that I can better do my job as the Ontario Regional Chief, supported by the chiefs and supported by our organization. I'm a big organizational person. I believe in the responsibility that I have to each and every one of you, the 133 communities, but also as the organization of the Chiefs of Ontario. And I will always defend the Chiefs of Ontario. And I would always defend each and every one of your positions as community leaders. So I do want to say, I'll go miigwech to all of our staff who've worked very hard. Tracy and the great team at the Secretariat worked day and night to make sure these things go off well. Make sure that we're supporting each and every one of you. ensuring we're have a spot for my dear friend Chief Black here, who is joining us for the grand finale. Good morning, Chief. Good to see you. I was out in her, I was out in her community last week, and we had it. There we go. Perfect. Yes. Feedback. And the only way we can be better is to hear where we need to improve. And so with that, I want to say Yamago Miigwech to the drum, to the ceremony that we had, the great honor to be in this role, but also for your openness as we continue to evolve and bring upon our Haudenosaunee practices as well into the work that we do here. Keeps us grounded. I always remember what Barney said, don't lose our way. And I know I met with the youth last night as well, and I shared that with them that as well. And that's here. We won't forget why we're here. Don't lose our way, because it's important that we continue to be grounded and remember the hard work that we do and why we do it for those little ones in community and those who are going to be coming after them. And so with that, I want to bid all of you Yamagoa Miigwech again. Safe travels back home to your community. I know we'll see many of you in Ottawa, and we'll be seeing many of you in the coming weeks and months as the work that we do in all of our communities and here at the Chiefs of Ontario. So, Yama.
Okay. All right. Right on. Shimigwech ORC. Now go. At this time, I want to call up our knowledge keeper, Mr. Barney Batiste. He's not here. He's in a meeting. Ever important, that guy. Dave, Norma? Yeah. All right, Mr. Root, you got voluntold. So from the Knowledge Keepers Council, Mr. Dave Root for the, oh, never mind. All right, now he's on his way back. He's on his way back.
Ameno Gishep Kinoia. Miigwech Kanage Yamakwen Menon Jeba Gizgaswa Porgan Makwen Megwagio Gimayak Miigwech Kana give a question going on Ginage Chibajayan Menaman P. Namatolan Ginage non Mugage Benjabai Kuge Ginoa Mugo Babu Goy Kigi the Benojiak, we the game Magnak. Can I go a Ajakoreo? Miigwech Kanage, Mquen Magwagi, Skinijik, our youth. Wabijige wat, Migna, Wabinigan, the wat Ganage P. Semigwechio. Miigwech Kanage, Mava Gima ORC. The Baganwam Don Goge Mandio Anjien Shkei Wabianguk. The future is sounding good, very good, and it's all working together. And hearing about that this morning as well, in doing the pipe ceremony, and the sharing that went on, and the sharing that went on with the youth as well. So it was really good. And then how we look to work together and these Gimayak Tick, these Eagle Staffs leading the way also. And the roles that we all take on, that responsibility, it's really challenging at times for the leaders. Many things that are coming and I guess the fight we have for the things that we want or the betterment within our own communities as well. So it's I just wish everybody a safe travel home. And their families are waiting for you there, community. It's just it's been a good week for me here and to do sunrise ceremony every day was a blessing. It was a blessing for me and to think of all you leaders and especially the song that was sung for you this morning, that Gima song, the chief song. So the honoring you in that way also. So I say me gwetch to that song. We're all leaders in one way or another, even if you're not at the table, but leaders within our own communities, having our own voices within the community to be heard. Our people are asking and wanting to be heard as well. So I say me gwetch to all of you and the organization that organized everything here also. And all the the other workers in behind the scenes. I say me gwetch to all of them, also all the work they're doing and putting things together for all of us. And yeah, so me gwetch mandam ke the earth that we're acknowledging that earth. Me gwetch kadage nodin the winds, Nabi, the waters, the rains, and that's good to take care. That's good as an Anishinaabe. We're always watching the fire, tending our fire. We all have a sacred fire within ourselves also, so it's maintaining our fire. Some have lost that fire a little bit, but it's still there. It's just a matter of rekindling the fire within ourselves. So I say me gwetch to that, and again, it's good to visit with the chiefs also. And me gwetch you. Me gwetch kinagogeo gashimishang gashimaneto. Me gay the bench get one pio. Me go gnage when it gnan the questioning gagin with Naskabiing. When it gnage chuido kadzing gagin with Namotchtonang gnageo is wido kadzing. She's not the Madiingo geo. Abdeko ge not the Mad Zamingo geo. Me man piggy chagoing gagin with when it gnage knocked on ben dong man deo ke. So me gwetch you. Me gwetch kinage a kenzijik, skinijik, nage benonchiuk, makwen magaswat. Me go gagin wang gimayak. Aha, me gwetch. So me gwetch gagin wang niskabiik. Thank you. Thank you all. And work on our language as well, to maintain our language of who we are. Aha, me gwetch, me gwetch, me gwetch, me gwetch. Gwetch.
At this time, before I call up my colleague to introduce our final presenter for closing remarks, I just want to note two things that I love throughout this assembly. One was how stoic all of our leadership looked throughout the entire assembly. You know, everybody. And I know I'm teasing us, but laughter's medicine. I like when I see everybody smile and laughter and participate, because that's healing. As well as I'd like to note that how restless our people are when it comes to trying to sit still. And I noticed that because I'm going to call out a lot of these. And I guess you don't realize how far down these table sheets go, because this is all I see throughout the assembly. Real antsy feet. All right, I was doing that too. But I always giggled at that. I'm like, yeah, I'm trying to sit still for all day, can't really move around very much. But I was giggling at that. So at this time, I want to call up my Noka Miss Vera for her little bit of closing remarks, as well as introducing a final member to do closing remarks. Miigwech.
So I want to say miigwech that Tracy and Lori give me a heads up a few months ago. And my friend Sally presented me with the tobacco the other day. So Ontario Regional Chief and Chiefs in Assembly, I am truly honored, and I hope I have honored you by making sure this tobacco did its work for us the past few days. And we'll continue to do the work until we all arrive back home. Say miigwech to my colleagues here for keeping us on track. And it's always a joy to have a young person being part of the team to remind us about laughter and joy, and that Adam and I can still pretend to be young. But also know that our work is being shared, and that there are going to be some very positive and very strong young people that are going to be able to do this work, because it is a work, and it's a beautiful work to be able to be the co-chairs for Chiefs in Assembly. So I say miigwech for that. And know that with this Zoom things now, we're live streaming, and even our chiefs can, and members in our community can see the work that we're doing here and see what our, how we look. We have names and faces that can match, and my great grandchildren can know that their Kokum is on TV. I'll see what they say when I return home. Maybe they got something else to say. But anyway, it's been a really beautiful honor. And thank you very much for all the love that you share, and the care and concern that you have for your community. So miigwech for that. And I'd like to invite Jessica Lee. She's going to do the youth perspective and the closing remarks. And the Honorable Barney Batiste has arrived. Jessica?
Thank you. Apologies if I sound really nervous, I am, but I'm going to do this. Hello, everyone. My name is Jessica Lee, and my home is Eagle Lake First Nation. I'm the granddaughter of Bessie Adams, and I would like to acknowledge her spirit, as I know she is always with me. I come from a strong line of women, and it all started with her and the women before her. Miigwech Kokum. I am honored to have a place at this assembly before you all today. Before I begin my reflection, I would like to acknowledge every Chief of Ontario, the Drums, and our elected Regional Chief, Abram Benedict, for speaking for our communities and bringing us all together, no matter the geographical distance. I want to acknowledge our knowledge keepers, who have helped carry our meetings to a higher place, and to acknowledge the keepers who are not with us today. Lastly, I would like to acknowledge my fellow youth, and their courage to stand up here today and use their voice, even though it shakes just like mine. Each one of you are incredible and so smart, and you inspire me. On day one, Chief of GNU Gaming, she spoke on an email exchange with TransCanada. She said something that rang my mind like a bell. Section 35 did not give us our rights. We have always had them. I found this very powerful. This is the mindset that will get us through hard times. It is a reminder that we are the first people and we have always been the first people. Our land, our rights. As a former youth in care, I wish to speak on the long-term reform settlement on the First Nations Child and Family Services. I call on all the chiefs of Ontario to keep this movement as a priority, as our youth deserve better and they need you to fight for them. More importantly, I urge you not to forget about the youth who age out of care. They are vulnerable and they believe that the system already doesn't care about them. My story is one with a happy ending. I was given the life tools to have a second chance at life. Unfortunately, there are hundreds of our children in care who will not have the same ending due to their isolation, disconnection to their communities, and their fear. We must love all youth as our own. And we must heal our families, the families that they come from, because we can do all of this big work, but if we don't provide the families with the support to heal together, I feel like it's all for nothing. Providing more mental health services and having housing benefits for off-reserve members and family support will help heal the intergenerational trauma. The poverty and financial strain on our people breaks my heart. I have family members who walk the streets of Thunder Bay. I have family who struggle, and I only wish to help them. So that's why I'm standing here before you today, because I'm here to be their voice. I want every person who struggles to have the will to live. We've already lost so much. I spoke with a chief who is dealing with a youth crisis in their community, and you could see it in his eyes. He didn't speak much about it, but if he were to stand up here right now, he would talk about helping our youth with their realities, because our realities are our realities, but they have something very different, and we need to hear them out. I guess that's really all I have to say. I'm really honored to be here, and I'm inspired by every leader that showed up. When I was growing up in care, I didn't realize that there was people talking about my life who were fighting for my rights, but now I do. Thank you, miigwech.
Folk, thank you for your words. We really need to hear those words, and we are thinking of you, and we want a better future for your generation, future generations, our generation as well. So thank you very much for taking part of this assembly with us.
Here, it's right there.
Something. He took off. Is that my phone?